Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're tackling something pretty essential, maybe even a bit unnerving. It's about that device probably right next to you, your smartphone. Our sources today, they're not just calling it a phone. No, they're describing it as a constant surveillance companion. So our mission here is to really look past the convenience, to
Yeah.
expose who's actually watching, why they're doing it, and really dig into the evidence that suggests your phone is building this incredibly detailed profile about you, maybe more than you realize.
Yeah, and the scale of it is frankly staggering. The analyses we've looked at claim this device, the one in your pocket right now, it knows your habits, your weaknesses, where you go, possibly better than your closest family or friends. So we're going to really dive deep into how this whole system works, following the sources step by step from how the data is collected right through to the money behind it all.
Okay, so let's start with that core idea. This unprecedented level of surveillance. The picture painted is, well, almost dystopian. Your phone tracking every step, maybe your sleep, even subtle biological rhythms, creating what the sources call a comprehensive digital shadow. And the really sneaky part, it often happens without what you'd call real, informed consent. Okay, let's unpack this. The tech needed for this kind of tracking is kind of mind-blowing. The sources seem pretty clear. There's basically no escape from being tracked if your phone is on.
Hmm.
How does that actually work? Especially when people think, I've turned off location services.
Well, it's because it's not just one switch you flip, it's a whole network of technologies working together. The research points to three main ways this happens constantly. First, yeah, people turn off GPS, but that doesn't stop cell tower triangulation. See, your phone has to constantly ping nearby cell towers just to get service. And by measuring the signal strength from different towers, analysts can pinpoint your location pretty precisely.
Wait, how precise are we talking? Like if I turn off location services, can they still tell I'm in this specific building or just sort of the general area?
Oh, it can be incredibly precise, especially where there are lots of towers, like in cities, often enough to track your exact route, say, to work, or how long you spent at a particular shop. It's fundamental, that data, for the network to even function. Then the second thing is wireless broadcasting. This is one people often forget. Your Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, when they're on, they're constantly sending out unique identifiers, MSE addresses, and things. This essentially turns your phone into a, well, perpetual digital beacon. You walk past a shop with a sensor, maybe even a smart trash can on the street, and bang, your phone's announced its unique ID, logged again.
Hmm. So even if I'm not actively browsing or anything, the phone's just constantly shouting, hey, I'm here and on this specific device. That's, yeah, unsettling.
Exactly. And the third method is maybe the most subtle, sensor exploitation. This is where apps use permissions that seem, innocent enough, but they use them to quietly collect data in the background from things like the accelerometer that measures motion or the gyroscope, which tracks orientation. And this really brings up a key question, maybe for you listening right now. Do you ever stop and think, why does my simple weather app need access to my phone's gyroscope? It's this constant collection, triangulation, broadcasting, these sensors that makes the surveillance so inescapable, really.
Right. That really sets the stage for the next big question. What kind of data are we talking about? Because the sources say this isn't just random collection. It's like meticulous cataloging to build a really deep profile.
Absolutely. The data falls into roughly four incredibly personal categories. First, there's location and movement intelligence. And this isn't just where you are right now. It's a full history, every place you visit, exactly how long you stay, your precise travel routes, mapping your life day and night. Second, and this is a big one, biometric and health data. Think heart rate variability from your watch, detailed sleep patterns, step counts, yes, but also voice recordings sometimes analyzed for emotional state and even facial recognition data. It builds what the sources literally call an intimate biological profile.
Wow, that's a huge leap from just where you went
Hmm.
to how you're feeling biologically. And then, of course, there's the more obvious stuff, but still kind of shocking when you list it all out. Personal identifiers, your contact list, your photos, your messages, detailed web browsing history, which apps you use and when, and often really sensitive health info you might enter into an app yourself.
Which then feeds into the fourth category, social and interest mapping. This is where sophisticated algorithms get involved. They build detailed maps of your relationships, who you talk to, how often, for how long, and they create interest graphs that try to predict what you'll want next, where your financial weak spots might be, even how susceptible you are to certain kinds of persuasion. They're not just looking back, they're trying to predict your future actions.
Okay, this is where the source material says it gets really interesting. The warning is that this combined profile biometrics, location, social connections, ends up being more complete than any government dossier from history.
Right, and think about what that means. A traditional government dossier, it looks backwards, right? It records past actions. But this kind of predictive digital profile, it lets observers anticipate your choices, your buying decisions, maybe your voting habits, even how you might react under stress, potentially before you even consciously decide. That anticipation, that's the game changer. It allows for incredible influence.
So if the data is that detailed, that predictive, you have to follow the money. Who exactly is watching? Who's profiting from all this?
The sources break it down into three main groups, and they're all interconnected. First, the most obvious one, big tech surveillance. We're talking Google, Meta, Apple, Amazon, Microsoft. They own the pipes, they make the rules, and yeah, they're making billions turning your private moments into ad revenue. That quote really nails it. Your life is their product. Second, you have the data broker networks. This is a much murkier world, these companies. Their entire business is buying, packaging, and reselling your data. Your information gets auctioned off literally in real-time millisecond bidding wars to thousands of often unknown third parties every single day. Think insurers calculating risk, potential employers checking backgrounds, maybe even foreign entities.
That real-time auction thing is key, isn't it? It's not like data just sitting passively on a server somewhere. It's being actively traded constantly to buyers you'll never even know exist.
Precisely. Which leads to the third group, government access. Law enforcement, intelligence agencies. They regularly get their hands on this data, location, messages, movement patterns. And often, they bypass traditional legal hurdles like warrants, either by just buying the data commercially from those brokers we just mentioned, or through secret data sharing deals, often without any public oversight.
That link between the data brokers and government access sounds incredibly problematic. Do the sources say if the government primarily pays for this data, or is it more like a direct, maybe secret feed from the big tech companies?
The sources indicate both happen, but they really highlight the trend towards government simply buying the data from brokers. It's a kind of legal loophole. See, if they buy it commercially, they can argue that the usual Fourth Amendment warrant requirements which apply when they compel a phone company directly don't apply in the same way. It's effectively undermining long-standing privacy protections.
And this whole engine, the economics driving it, that's what the sources label surveillance capitalism. We hear that phrase a lot. If you're not paying for the product, you are the product.
Yeah, but even that phrase doesn't quite capture the depth, you know? It's not just that your data is the product, it's that your attention and your future behavior are the products. Every free service you use, it extracts payment not just in data, but arguably in your future autonomy. This harvested intelligence fuels what the sources call digital chains. Yes, personalized ads, sure, but also potentially discriminatory pricing. You might pay more for a flight ticket based on your browsing history, and even targeted political campaigns designed to hit specific emotional vulnerabilities. And the exploitation mechanism is key here. Companies profit most when they can predict and influence what you do next. The analysis points out that emotional states may be inferred from how fast you type, your voice tone, which apps you linger on are tracked to maximize engagement. If the system thinks you're feeling down or financially stressed, well, that might be the perfect moment to hit you with a highly persuasive, maybe even predatory ad or piece of content.
And this lack of privacy, it isn't just theoretical, is it? The sources give a really chilling, specific example. Recent lawsuits exposing companies collecting location data from extremely sensitive places. We're talking about abortion clinics, addiction treatment centers, other medical facilities, and then selling that data. It shows the data isn't abstract at all. It has immediate, real-world consequences, legal, physical, for the person just carrying their phone. The system, as described, seems designed to keep you monitored, analyzed, and, yeah, ultimately, maybe controlled.
Which brings us to maybe the most uncomfortable part of this whole analysis, the paradox. If the surveillance is this pervasive and the potential harms are so significant, why do we keep playing along? Why do users willingly participate?
Right. It's easy to point fingers at the tech companies, but we have to admit, we keep using the devices, we keep clicking accept on those endless terms and conditions. The sources call it the paradox. You're happy about it.
Well, it's a classic behavioral trap, isn't it? And the sources identify four main reasons why we tend to submit. First, it's just convenience seduction. Let's be honest, these devices make life easier. Seamless navigation, instant information, helpful apps. We trade privacy for that smooth experience. The hassle of opting out often feels like more trouble than it's worth. Second, there's simple privacy ignorance. A lot of us just don't read the terms, or if we do, they're so dense and legalistic, they're basically impenetrable, as the sources put it. So we don't really understand what we're agreeing to, or we choose to ignore it.
And the third reason feels particularly tricky. The false bargain. People genuinely think they're making a fair trade. I get this cool free app, they get a little bit of my data. But the warning from the sources is stark. You are giving up far more than you receive. The lifetime value of your comprehensive data profile is likely far greater than the value of that free service.
And that leads to the final point, learned helplessness. People start to feel powerless, like, these companies are huge, the technology is complex, what can I really do? So you accept surveillance as just the cost of living in the modern world. And what's fascinating, really, is how quickly we seem to accept this as inevitable. That acceptance just reinforces the whole cycle.
Okay, so that leads directly to the question everyone listening must be asking. Can we actually fight back? Are there tools or strategies that can make a real difference, or is it just, futile?
The sources do offer practical steps, things you can do to reduce your exposure. But, and this is a big but, they are very clear. This is about harm reduction, not achieving total privacy. That's likely impossible. So, the advice starts with the basics. You really need to audit app permissions. Go through your phone settings, see what each app has access to, and revoke anything that doesn't seem absolutely necessary. Why does that game need your contact list? You can also disable location services at the operating system level, but you have to remember what we discussed earlier, that network-based tracking, the cell tower triangulation, that keeps going regardless. And then there's deploying privacy tools. This means things like using a VPN, a virtual private network, to mask your internet IP address, using privacy-focused browsers like Brave or Tor, which try to obscure your web traffic, and using search engines like DuckDuckGo that promise not to track your searches.
Right, so if someone does all the audit permissions, use a VPN, switch browsers, does that mean they're finally safe? Off the grid?
Unfortunately, the critical warning remains. Even taking all these steps only reduces the surveillance. It doesn't eliminate it. You become a harder target, yes. More difficult to track comprehensively, but invisible, no.
Which brings us to the final, maybe sobering reality check that the source material really hammers home. Why is total, complete privacy basically impossible with these devices?
It boils down to three fundamental realities, kind of baked into how modern communication works. First, there's what you could call essential surveillance. For your phone to do its basic job, receive calls, connect to Wi-Fi, use Bluetooth, headphones, it must constantly communicate with networks. And that communication inherently requires identifying and locating your device, at least to some extent. It's fundamental to providing service, as the sources say. True anonymity is technically incompatible with how the system works. Second, inevitable breaches. We hear about them all the time. Data leaks, hacks, security failures. They happen regularly because your data isn't just on your phone. It's copied onto countless servers you don't control. The more places your data exists, the higher the chance it gets exposed somehow. And third, and this is maybe the toughest pill to swallow, limited defense. Your personal actions, being careful, using privacy tools, they offer only limited protection against this massive industrialized system of data collection. The final blunt conclusion from the research is, you essentially have to accept that surveillance is constant, comprehensive, and inescapable in modern life. They even end that section with a capitalized warning. What? The surveillance never stops.
Wow, okay. So if we can't fully escape it, what does this mean for us, just living our daily lives with these phones? How do we navigate this reality and maybe hold on to some sense of control?
Well, the sources try to consolidate everything into 4 key directives. The theme is basically, own your digital footprint or it will own you. First, understand the system. Really make an effort to grasp what data is being collected, who's profiting, and how it can potentially be used against your interests financially, socially, politically. Second, make informed choices. This means pausing before you download that next app, before you grant that permission. Really question every data request. Think about the long-term trade-off you're making for that little bit of convenience right now. Third, demand accountability. We can't just rely on individual actions. The sources stress advocating for stronger privacy laws, demanding real transparency from companies, and pushing for actual legal consequences when abuses happen. And finally, protect your identity. In this digital age, your data is your identity. It's your reputation. It affects your future opportunities. The argument is you have to guard it fiercely because, well, the forces wanting to exploit it are relentless.
So, the final thought to leave you with, drawing right from the source's conclusion. Big Brother isn't just watching. There are countless Big Brothers, and they never sleep. Maybe the challenge isn't trying to erase our digital footprint entirely, which seems impossible, Perhaps it's about being much more conscious and deliberate about the traces we do choose to leave behind. Stay vigilant out there.